Through nearly 7 years running this channel, I've now reviewed almost 10 seasons of Big Brother, and before I get to the next one, I figured why not bundle up all my thoughts into a nice little video and sort of just sum up where I'm at right now, going all the way back to where I first began. Internets, from Big Brother 20 back in 2018 all the way to BB 25 in 2023. Here are my rankings of all the seasons I've reviewed on my channel. Unlike Survivor, I have ranked all of the current mainline seasons of Big Brother from BB2 up to BB22. I haven't ranked 23, 24, or 25 in that group, so this video should serve as like a nice little stopgap from then till now. If you want to check out my full-fledged rankings of all those seasons from years ago, feel free. It is a long video, but otherwise, consider this one as a way for me to organize how I feel about everything I've watched since starting my channel. Because my rankings do shift every so often, and in total, including the offshoot shows, we're looking at 30 seasons of Big Brother in the US. Technically 25 mainline seasons, including Big Brother 1, 3 celebrity seasons, the online only over the top, and the short holiday season reindeer games. They all fall under the umbrella of the BB universe, and while I do treat them differently, I do also think they can be compared to one another as far as entertainment value goes. And for the super fans out there who may notice this, I did also review Big Brother Canada 6 and 9, but I won't actually be including Big Brother Canada in this video, even though I would love to one day sit down and rank all of those seasons in a separate video because I got a lot of thoughts on them and compare how they stack up next to the US. For this video, I'll be covering 10 of those 30 US seasons, the 6 mainline seasons from BB20 to BB25, as well as all 3 celebrity seasons, and then lastly reindeer games. And I can say that at least one of these 10 seasons is in my overall top 5, and a few of them are in my overall bottom 5. So let's talk about number 10 of 10, my least favorite season since I began covering the show on my channel. I think there are a few candidates to consider for this bottom spot of this batch, and for me, last place is going to be awarded to Celebrity Big Brother Season 3. I actually didn't even make a video review of this season. I was so disappointed that I just made a bunch of pithy little tweets fleshing out my thoughts and left it at that. That was my review, take it or leave it, good enough for me. Quite frankly, other than Big Brother 1, which doesn't even really feel like it should be in the conversation, Celebrity 3 is probably the worst season of Big Brother in the US ever. I'm not sure if that's a hot, spicy take that it's dead last, but well, I think after you look at the season, I don't know why it really couldn't be. Going into this video, I considered if it was worse than my least favorite mainline seasons, and I think the answer is yes, if only because it also doesn't hold the weight a mainline season does. It doesn't have the strategic depth of the gameplay. It doesn't have the lasting power of its players and their legacies. It doesn't really have a great start or middle portion or ending. It features unlikable people steamrolling the strategy and the competitions each week until we watched Todrick get rightfully taken out by the public jury. They all saw how much he sucked on the feeds because the players all went home and had the internet at their disposal, and Todrick's karma came back to bite him. But it's not like Misha was that much better, or that most of this cast was that much better either. They were self-righteous and terrible at the game and didn't put on a good show. 3 massive strikes that actually had me thinking BB19 was no longer at the bottom of my overall rankings. And if you know me, you know that is a serious remark. Just when I thought we had hit rock bottom, this season showed up and said, give me a pickaxe and some dynamites, I've got a bar to set. At number 9, we have a season that I don't think many will be shocked to see, and that is Big Brother 22 All-Stars 2. You know, the one where I made a review video with 5 different acts and I was so dramatic about it and I broke down why it's the most disappointing returnee season I have ever seen. It had a cast of returning players, but were they really All-Stars? It was plagued with groupthink, where the comp beasts won all the power and never really did anything but stick to the plan. There was very little drama, very little interesting gameplay. The storylines fell flat, other than I guess when Cody cut Nicole at the end. This wasn't really the second coming of All-Stars that we had in mind, and while Cody's game was quite impressive, it left something to be desired when it came to entertainment value. The feeds were so dry, the episodes were so long, and all the faces I was excited to see back kinda just disappointed me. Above all else, BB22 commits the cardinal sin of being boring. It's just not the title fight I expected, unlike the first All-Stars, and it's my second least favorite mainline season thus far. And then we have number 8, and I guess the apple doesn't fall too far from this tree because we're only going to go back 1 year to the summer of 2019 with Big Brother 21. What a great summer of expect the expected. Another one of my least favorite seasons where the first half plagues the viewer with an unlikable dominant alliance who control the game, win most of the competitions and powers, and pick off the underdogs, all while treating them like exiles, outcasts, pariahs. And it doesn't help that the producers encouraged this unintentionally with the camp comeback twist. Yeah, fun dynamic here. The 6 Shooters Alliance were undeniably grateful to be receiving all that power because holy crap, they were miserable to watch, and thankfully, this season did turn around halfway in with a massive, unexpected clutch win by Jessica, who flipped the game on its head. And this was all right after day 44, where the Shooters Alliance imploded. Some of the best feeds in a long time. I still remember those pretty damn well, and it was so juicy. It did kind of become a comp run for the Jackson, Holly, Cliff, and Nicole of it all, but between Taco Tuesday, the double eviction, and the Final 5 drama with Tommy and Jackson's lie, at least the season finished on a stronger note. It just needed this in the first half, and it wasn't there. Number 7 is going to be a doubleheader, including number 6 in this part as well. Because both of these seasons are similar to me, they share similar reasons for why I have them side by side, both in my overall ranking and in this smaller one, and I am talking about Celebrity Big Brother Season 1 and Season 2. And if I was going to pick one to be above the other, I would go with Season 1 being a smidge above Season 2, if only because my expectations for this offshoot show were quite low, and Season 1 managed to clear that bar pretty well. I was shocked at how much I enjoyed the first season and saw some promise in smaller offshoot seasons going forward. And I was glad the show returned with Season 2 because the drama was raised with the second cast, and the gameplay was improved upon as well. At least as far as entertainment value goes. We had some big characters with Tamar and Lolo and Tom and Ryan, but then Season 1 gave us Ross and Brandy and Omarosa. Meta World Peace voting incorrectly lives rent-free in my head. That said, they are still inferior to me when I compare them to the experience of watching the mainline seasons. They don't reach the same highs as what my top 5 in this ranking offer, and while I wouldn't say they're bad seasons by any measure, I do still hold their format against them, particularly with the jurors going home after they're evicted, or how the Final 4 vote works. Just not my cup of tea. Next up, we're looking at the first season in the top half of this ranking, which is kind of surprising given what I had to say about it, and that is gonna be Big Brother 25 from last year. The most recent mainline season to wrap up, it was the longest season in BB history, and it felt like it. Kind of similar to Big Brother 21, except in reverse. The first half was a wild ride with unexpected twists and turns in the alliance structure and the constant fallouts with each vote. You had Suri at the center of the web, controlling a lot of the moves between Riley going, Heisem going, Jag going, and yeah, Izzy and Suri were a dynamic duo to be reckoned with. And it was only after Cam played the Renegade and took a massive shot that the season cracked even wider open, and then proceeded to fall apart. I love seeing the pressure cooker return, but it was invalidated by the season needing to be 100 days. So a twist showed up and saved Jag from eviction. Then the zombie twist happened and produced one of the least interesting weeks in the show's history. And it's kind of wild to think that that's happening, that the show is this uninteresting with this many people still in the game. From there, the season mostly slogged on as the same people won the same competitions, and the end was never in doubt. The first half was a lot of fun, and the second half, while it did have some moments, sorta, it just became static and one-dimensional, and the endgame players were tough to root for. I still liked a lot of the cast, and I think they gave us some fun moments in Big Brother history, but Overall, BB25 left a lot to be desired, especially in the way of comp design. Number 4 might be a bit of a blindside, but I have Big Brother 23, just outside of my top 3 for this video. I think BB23 is one of the more peculiar seasons of the bunch. It reminded me a lot of the first season I ever watched with Big Brother 12. Each week played out in a very similar fashion, but the cast was larger, the stakes felt higher, and the gameplay was slightly more complicated. The Cookout ran the show from early on and implemented the same strategy as the Brigade. They found their parachute duos and clung on for dear life. Yet, peculiarly enough, it was the same alliance of the Cookout who provided most of the drama too. There was infighting and tension amidst the group on how to proceed through the game, what their ideal boot order should be, and how everyone felt about it when the dust settled. The cast was very theatrical and loved to put on a show, unlike the season that came before it, and I appreciated the change in pace. It was a bit of a steamroll though, and at certain points the end was just never in doubt, and then once the alliance had to turn on itself, I can't say I was too excited for how that turned out. Overall, it's a decent season. It's historic for what it accomplished, and it sits somewhere in the middle of my rankings and just outside the top 3 here. Which leaves me with a pretty unexpected top 3, something I could not have predicted prior to this third season airing. We have got Big Brother 20, Big Brother 24, and Big Brother Reindeer Games. Reindeer Games definitely seems like the outlier of this trio, and that's because it is. It's my number 3 on the list, and frankly, I am shocked that it made it this high, but you know what? It was a fun 6 episodes over 2 weeks that I'd be happy to see return again. Also, look at its competition. And on that note, in a season of Big Brother dedicated to mostly competitions, the producers were able to not make every competition require doing the same thing over and over. While most of the comps were still reused from older seasons because originality died over a decade ago, I still was glad to see most of the ones that were picked. I thought this season would be a total wash, but it basically glammed up the Christmas spirit, turned it to 11, and went all in. Sometimes it was a little too much. There's a lot of cringe to go around, but most of it was harmless and campy, and sure, for 6 episodes, why not? The stakes were low and the production value felt high, and the cast delivered. They were a fun mix of winners and big names, and the social strategy of who competes against who and when gave for a nice little twist amidst what I otherwise thought would just be a steamroll for the Comp Beast players. I mean, hell, it resulted in Nicole versus Taylor in the finals. Say what? That said, it was kinda just a diet version of the challenge, but you know, inside the Big Brother house, and I'm not sure I'd care to see much of that format of this season transfer over to the mainline show. Just make more comps that involve social play, involve mixing up the social dynamics, the politicking of it all, and throw in like a puzzle or two here and there. Reindeer Games delivered on its mission, and for that, it deserves top 3. And then we got some heavy hitters with BB20 and BB24. 2 of my favorite recent seasons, and 2 strong contenders for many others' favorite seasons of all time. I didn't get to include Big Brother 24 in my overall season ranking years ago, but I did talk about where I felt it would land after it wrapped up. And given I have BB20 in my personal top 10, was it just recency bias that had me glowing about BB24, or does it still hold up years later? Because I think BB20 holds up well enough. The first half is still arguably the best first half of any season. The sheer amount of ridiculous vote flips and confused faces and really just like the faute of it all, it leaves me speechless. One of the most deadly alliances in level 6 versus the most incompetent alliance of all time in Faute, the Hive. So many close votes, so many flip votes, so many unexpected comp wins, and some pretty great strategy to boot. Big names and characters, pots and pans and door slams and the bleeding lip of it all, and then it kind of falls off after Fessy takes out Scotty in one of the dumbest moves ever, which is still hilarious to consider, but once this veto happens, the season just comes to a crawl and mostly just becomes about Tangela and Casey winning everything, and it takes up like 40% of the show. The season didn't really stick the landing for me in comparison to what I consider to be the best this show has to offer. It set itself up too high with the first half, and it couldn't deliver with the second. The hacker twist was awful, the superpowers were an afterthought, and unfortunately I did get pretty bored by the end. And the best seasons can't do that. Meanwhile, BB24 had kind of the opposite trajectory where the first week was rough. It was ugly. It was groupthink all over again and not fun. Taylor was ostracized, and I was ready to root for so many players' downfalls. And we had the feeds from night one, so there were no excuses. And yet, everything began to fall into place for me from that point forward. Pooch gives us one of the most classic blindsides in a while. Seriously, dude, you want to be the pawn? What is this, Dr. Will? The leftovers formed in week 3 with one of my favorite moments where a house flips overnight I've ever seen. The pre-jury twists all kinda suck, but the pre-jury villains all get their comeuppance from them, so narratively, it works. Mostly talking about Daniel and Nicole. And Taylor's first HOH to kick off the jury with the wall is a hot mess. And then the jury starts, and the split house twist is one of the most creative twists I think the producers have ever bothered with, even if the implementation could have been better. And while it was brutal to see Joseph get clipped, it really lit a fire under the other players' butts to go all out. The social deck was reshuffled with Kyle changing gears, and then Michael completely pulling the rug out from under him 1 week later, doing it all over again. And then Taylor, Monty, and Turner do the same thing to Michael at the second double eviction, one of the best we've ever seen, stopping him from breaking the comp record and probably just winning his way to the end. The final 5 round and vote is so underratedly cracked as all get out. How Brittany turns on Taylor, how Turner turns on Alyssa. Everything was backwards and wasn't really making sense, and yet Taylor seized the opportunity to flex her social chops and spun a nice tale to convince Monty to throw the game and cut Turner at the 11th hour. Taylor is crowned, and the journey to get there is almost unbelievable. But it was believable because I watched the feeds all day, every day for the entire summer. It ebbed and flowed from start to finish, remained either satisfying or unpredictable at its best and worst. Had a classic hero's journey full of rising action, tension, drama, and to top it off, it stuck the landing. It wowed me in the end. Sometimes that's all you need, but BB24 gave me more than that, and while I ranked it highly years ago, I can say now, years later, that it's still just as high and is my #1 in this video too, while BB20 is #2. And that is going to be it for my ranking of all the seasons I have covered on my channel since it began many years ago. Damn, that is 7 years of content right there. Let me know what you think about my rankings of these 10 seasons and how you would rank them with your own personal criteria. A big thank you to my patrons for all your support after all these years. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to remind yourself where you've been on your way out, and I will see you in the next one, once I still try to figure out where I'm going next. Here's to another 7 years.
As you remember, the election was between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. The next president of the United States will be Chicken George.
All right, good job. I did. So cool. Yeah.
No
Whoa.
way.
Julie, you're joking.
No. I leave you with that.
Oh my
Goodbye, house
God.
guests.
Oh.
What?
She's joking.
No.
No.